Hey, Sam.
Good morning. How are you?
Doing good, my friend. How are you, sir?
Doing well. Doing well. It's good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too. I don't think I've gotten to officially congratulate you since you started at Coastal Community Foundation. That's great.
It's been a great ride. I started in February, so it's been a nice change of pace, a nice little transition.
Definitely.
Uh, yeah, it's been good. I see you've moved a couple different places since we since we last talked.
Well,
How was
one
your ride
one
been?
organization, but two positions. Yeah. Hired as director of development, but they moved me up to CEO a little quicker than I thought they would.
Well, when you do good work, good things happen, right?
I guess so. I guess
That's
so.
that's how it's supposed to work. You know, reward the people who are doing the good things. So yeah, good stuff. Good
Awesome.
stuff.
Well, I just made you a co-host for the meeting, so you should be able to present. Do you want to test any of that before I let folks in?
Let's see here. Can you see that on your side?
There we go. Yep, looks great.
Yep. All right. I think we're good.
Awesome.
You know how many people you're expecting today?
Uh, the head count on these things varies for who's live, but we have a cloud that we store this on for folks that aren't able to make the live recording. And we do know that a fair number of people will watch the recordings if they aren't able to make it. So I've got 4 in the waiting room right now. That's
Okay.
a little less than the number of people who accepted the invitation. So we might have other folks pop
Pop
in
it.
and pop out.
It happens, man. It happens. No worries at all.
Well, whatever the attendance is, we greatly appreciate your time, and I know that this will be a helpful resource for this group, for those that are here live today who will get to
Yeah,
benefit from it more, and from those who will be watching it in the future. So
absolutely. Absolutely.
awesome. I'm gonna open the floodgates and let the folks in.
All right.
All right, good morning, everybody. We'd love to see your wonderful faces if you are open to turning your camera on for us. We really appreciate your time this morning to join our second quarter Palmetto Vision Alliance meeting. It's hard to believe we're already almost halfway through another year, but here we are. And one of the things that I know our group is always talking about, always working through is reporting and grant funding. And so we were able to kind of tackle 2 of those topics simultaneously today. We're very excited to have Samuel Bellamy in our program this morning, and just want to offer a brief introduction to Sam. Sam manages a portfolio of programs at Coastal Community Foundation of South Carolina that includes the Bacher Family Fund, Disaster and Relief and Recovery Fund, the Low Country Unity Fund, the NEW Fund, Saul Alexander Foundation, and Stanley B. Farbstein Endowment, as well as providing technical assistance, capacity building, and outcomes management to nonprofit organizations through the Facebook grant for sustaining Black communities. Also, a little insider note, Sam and I were both on the inaugural group of the Bridge Philanthropists program when that was going on at Coastal Community Foundation. So Sam, we're very grateful for your time and efforts this morning to talk to us about results-based accountability and a reporting framework for us, as well as to give us a little bit more insight into Coastal Community Foundation's grant-making initiatives. I know that this is a group that wants to apply for those funds, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of questions related to that. So if you all have questions during the program, please feel free to put them in the chat. and I'll help keep an eye on that. Sam has a hard stop at 9:55 this morning. So without further ado, we're going to turn it over to him to lead us through the first hour of our program. Welcome, Sam.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. Happy to see all of you. Man, Catherine, you're making me a little jealous. You look very, very comfortable. Is it tea or coffee this morning?
It's coffee. I can't do the tea.
Breakfast of Champions. Breakfast of Champions. It is a pleasure to meet all of you. Since there's such a small number of us, I would love to, just get like a name and what you guys do really, really quick. The person to my top right, is it Shifa?
Yeah, I am Lupe Barragan-Moser. I am the office manager of the Shifa Free Clinic. We are a free clinic that provides multiple services, and one of these are vision. Twice a month, an optometrist comes, and we also provide glasses through the New Eyes program. And also we can do referral to a provider, Dr. What is her name? That she is an ophthalmologist, Dr. Helen Newton.
Okay.
So we can approach the vision care for our patients.
Wonderful. Nice to meet you this morning. I next have Ernest on my screen.
Greetings. My name is Ernest. I'm a part of the marketing department for Lighthouse for the Blind, based out of Somerville, South Carolina, where the Somerville location, our headquarters is in Seattle, Washington. And we basically we employ people with low vision, legally blind employees, where we manufacture products for Boeing, companies like the military. And we are also doing a lot of things inside of the community, getting involved in the community, just letting the community know that we're here and we're supporting it and trying to be an advocate for a lot of things like dealing with transportation and any other kind of issues that might take place that hinders people who are blind from being able to have employment.
Thank you so much, Ernest. Nice to meet you this morning. Miss Miranda.
Hi, I'm Miranda Townsend. I work for Focus First with Catherine. We provide the vision screenings in Alabama, Tennessee, and also South Carolina.
Awesome. Thank you. Catherine.
Hello, I'm Catherine. I'm also with Impact. I'm the new state director. So I run our South Carolina office, making sure kids get vision screenings all throughout the state.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And last but certainly not least, Miss Rhonda.
Well, good morning. Yes, I'm Rhonda Thompson. I work as a program lead here at the South Carolina Commission for the Blind. And specifically, I think a lot of times we focus in, work with the great folks, with Daniel and those at the Lions Vision Service. We coordinate to serve people through our prevention of blindness program, Samuel, and what that is. And I'm excited. I mentioned it last time. It was just sort of in the thinking and hopeful phase, but it has come to fruition. In the new fiscal year, the new state fiscal year, we have expanded. We've expanded our program. The budget has allowed us to do that. We'll have additional staff on board. Right now, we have one coordinator and myself and an assistant, but we're going to have one in each region. We have 4 regions, and we will add to our service list of the procedures that we would sponsor. And this is for folks that are uninsured and certainly, have a limited income. It's the only program at the agency that we do look at that. But I will say, without too many specifics right now, we're going to make some allowances for underinsured moving forward. And so that's going to make a big difference for a lot of folks as well. So we're looking forward to doing that. But I also have an opportunity here to serve as program lead for our children's services program and our senior program. So we are busy every day, as I'm sure each one of you all are.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it is a pleasure to meet all of you this morning. I'm going to try not to bore you right? That's the thing. We do these trainings and sometimes it gets so bogged down in the minutia and the details that you get lost and you're like, did I really learn something this morning? So I'm going to try to make this as painless as possible. Daniel did read off the bio. I always feel like bios are just fancy reasons for why you should listen to me, right? That's really all it is. You want to know, do I know what I'm talking about? Am I a credible person to listen to? As he mentioned, I am a program officer with the Coastal Community Foundation. To my own credit, I have been there for a short period of time. I've only been there since February, but I've been in the nonprofit space for about 12 years, particularly in the youth development space where we train and help youth development organizations scale their efforts in both North and South Carolina. So that's kind of been my experience in the past 12 years. And then, like I said, most recently with the Coastal Community Foundation. So we're here to talk about RBA. I do have a nice little, I think it's a nice presentation. I hope you guys think it's a nice one as well. Presentation that I want to share with you. Feel free to ask questions in the chat as we go along. I'm definitely going to try to leave some room at the end for you to dive into some additional questions. I know there are a lot of individuals who are not on this morning, so I will make sure that I share my contact information with you so that you can email questions and call or whatever you need to do to get that information. We want to make sure that you get it as well. Okay. So
and Sam, if you would like to, we can share the PowerPoint as well when we share the recording, if that's something that you'd like to pass along to the group.
Yeah, absolutely. We can absolutely do that. Absolutely. So result-based accountability. What is it? Why is it important? I think that's what we're here for, right? I do want to share a little bit about the Community Foundation. We service a 9-county radius. We separated into the northern low country, southern low country. So we're in, of course, your traditional, right? Your Berkeley, Dorchester, Charleston, Horry. We're in Jasper, Hampton, Colleton. I feel like I'm missing a county. I feel like that's 8 counties. I feel like I'm missing one. There's another county, Beaufort County. There you go. Yeah. Thank you, Daniel. So we're in all those counties. We try to strive for these principles of stewardship, integrity, inclusion with equity and courage. And we do so in through participatory grant making. And what that essentially means is that through all of the programs that we offer funding through, the staff do not make those decisions. We actually partner with community members to bring in, and we task them with reviewing applications. We task them on going with us on site visits, and we really rely on their input and their expertise and what they know about the community to help us make funding recommendations. And I think that's really, really important because, I think when if you left that if you left the staff to their own devices, a lot of things could go well, but a lot of things could go wrong too, particularly if you find certain organizations always receiving funding. Is it because you know the staff? Is it because you go to church with the staff member? Why would these one particular organization always receive funding? Well, this allows us to remove ourselves from the equation. So we have rubrics, we have common definitions, we have all of these things available so that we can really speak to why an organization received funding from the Coastal Community Foundation. And it's purely based off of the strength of their application, the integrity of their answers, and how well they fit the lens of the programming. And the great thing is we don't have to go through any type of mental gymnastics, to try to figure out if it fits or if it works. It's really up to the community. If the community can read the application and say, you know what, I understand what this application is saying. I understand what this program is trying to do. And they scored appropriately. And then, of course, if there's something on the application that the community member is like, I'm not really sure. Well, we have site visits set up to now where we can say, let's go see it. Because sometimes, no matter how well written an application is, sometimes you have to place your eyes on it. Sometimes it just doesn't translate well on paper, and you need to see it in action. You need to see it in person. So we do have that that capability of going out to the community to say, show me what you're talking about. What do you mean in the application when you say this? What does this look like in real life? And that helps us. It helps inform us and gives us additional context and additional information to provide funding recommendations. So Coastal Community Foundation has been around for a long time. We are one of the largest community foundations in South Carolina. And we boast over $400 million in assets that allow us to put an additional 25 to 30 million in the community every year. So happy to be a part of the Community Foundation, and would love to know and meet all of you on an organizational level, just to see, if there's any alignment and anything that we could point, any resources that we can point you to and apply for. Would love to have those conversations with you. All right, so this is what we're going to talk about today. We already went through the welcome. This is the agenda. We're going to talk about what is result-based accountability. More importantly, result-based accountability breaks down into two different types of accountability: population and performance. So we're going to talk about the difference between the two. And then lastly, we're going to talk about reporting. What does that look like? Once you have an organization and they're providing services or a kind of roadmap, if you will, of what they're doing, how do we know it works? How do we know if they're successful? How do we know if this is an organization that we should stand behind or that we should be okay with funding? So we will talk about that today as well. All right. So what is result-based accountability? Not necessarily going to read the slides, but I did want to make sure for those who aren't here and aren't able to participate live, you're able to fully understand what we are talking about. Result-based accountability is just a disciplined way of thinking. It's really a tool used to think about what we're doing with the end in mind, right? So it's always, it's starting with where you want to end up, how you want the population to look, how you want your performance, how you want your program to perform. It's a way of thinking. And I promise you, all of you do it on a day-to-day basis. Every single last one of you engage in result-based accountability in your everyday life right now. I can almost guarantee it, and we'll talk about it today. So result-based accountability, the thing that I love most about it is that we, through RBA, and that's the term that I'll refer to it now, so we don't have to go through the whole name, but through RBA, they believe that the reason why most evaluations don't go well is because we're all using different words to mean the same thing. So what they strive to do is have some sort of rubric around common language. So when we say this word, this is what we mean. So these are some of the words that we'll be using today. And these are some of the definitions that that RBA uses to refer to these outcomes. So when we say results, what we're really just talking about is what do we want, right? That's pretty straightforward, right? So it's not some long drawn out Harvard definition. It's at the end of the day, what do we want? When we use the word indicators, we're really just saying, how do we measure the condition? How do we measure what it is that we're talking about? How do we know? That's really the question that we're asking. When we use the word baseline, we're really saying, what do the measures say about where we're heading? So if we never existed, if the programs that we have never were created, if we never had any type of interventions, where's the trend? Where is it going? Is it going up? Is it going down? The baseline just means where are things headed if no one gets involved? That's all a baseline means. Turning the curve, the question that we're asking when we say turn the curve is, what is success like if we're doing better than the baseline? So if things are going in a downward trend, we know that that's the baseline. What does success look like if we are doing better than the downward trend baseline? It might go up, but what does that look like? We might look for some indicators, right? To say, how do we measure? What does it look like going up? What are the results that we want? Strategies, pretty straightforward. What we believe will work. What are the steps involved? And performance measures is, how do we know if the programs that we created are working? That's got to be like one of the most important questions that we ask ourselves, right? You know, when we're pouring money, we're pouring resources, we're pouring time, staff time, individual time. Does this program, does this service do what we want it to do? Does it ultimately get the results that we want? How do we know? There are some indicators. Is it better or worse than where it was headed? Baseline, turning the curve. Does that make sense? Give me a thumbs up if you were on the same. There we go. All right. Common language. That's all we're talking about. So the two most important things in RBA is understanding the difference between population versus performance accountability. So when we say population, what we're talking about is a large swath of people. We're talking about communities, we're talking about cities, we're talking about counties, states, nations. We're talking about no one person specific. We're talking about a wide variety of people. We might be talking about a zip code area. We might be talking about a specific area of the city. That's what we mean when we say population accountability. Performance accountability is a little bit more minute. It's a little bit more granular. We're talking about the systems, the services that your organization provides that affects individual lives. That's what we mean by performance accountability. So it's two different things. One is more broad, and then one is more minute and granular, if you will. But I think it's a very important thing because each level of accountability has a different set of questions that you'll ask yourself to make sure that you're getting to the bottom of the problem, making sure that you're getting to the results that you want. The last thing that you'd want to do is measure an organization that is set out to affect a population, and you're judging them the way that they would do a service or service-based organization performance. An example of a population or an organization that would view things from a population standpoint versus a performance standpoint, you might look at, say, you might look at, excuse me, you might look at crime as a whole. So you might look at the police departments in general, right? Police departments across the nation, police departments across the cities, the countries, the nations, how we're being policed in America. You might judge the police department or the armed services as a population accountability measure. To get that on a more granular level, you might look at North Charleston Police Department, that specific department that might allow you to zero in and then view them from a performance based accountability. So you have all of police, just one police department. That would be the difference between the two. Okay. So when we go back to common language, what we're looking for when we're talking about population, right? Population accountability. We're talking about the outcome, the goal, or the condition of well-being. A particular population indicator would essentially be, how would you recognize it if you saw it? So if we're talking about maybe decreasing crime across a country, across a nation, we would want to look at, how would we recognize if crime is going down? What are some indicators? What are some things that we would look at? We might look at the number of violent crimes happening, the number of calls being made, the number of 911 calls. Those are types of indicators that might indicate if, as a nation, as a country, we're becoming a safer country because crime is going down. When we look at strategies and performance measures, we want to know how well a particular service or how well a particular intervention is working. So if we're trying to reduce crime across the nation, one way we might decide to do that, particularly important in the North Charleston area, right here in North Charleston, where they're talking about implementing a joint operations center, where they're implementing about 700 cameras across the city as a way to reduce crime. So that would be considered a strategy. We're talking about a set of actions that has a chance of improving the results. Well, the reality is we would want to know if it is working. So let's say you implement the strategy. The next thing that you're trying to figure out is performance measure. How well is the system working? What are some indicators that you would use to determine if this camera system is working? Well, you might say, okay, since the cameras have been up, have the number of calls stopped? Have the number of crimes decreased? Have the types of crimes decreased? Or have they increased? Those are all questions that you would ask yourself. And if you're thinking to yourself, well, Sam, I still don't know what RBA is. RBA is a series of questions that will get you to the end result. When you're employing RBA, result-based accountability, you are asking yourself a series of questions, And remember when I said at the beginning that we all do it every single day? We just don't call it RBA. Here is an example. Let's say you have a leak in your roof. Okay, let's say you have a leak in the roof. You know the roof is leaking because you see it leaking. Without looking at the screen, somebody tell me, if your roof was leaking, what you would be thinking.
Where are the leaks coming from? Why?
Where is the leak coming from? Have you done this before, Miranda? Have you ever had a leak in your roof?
No, thank the Lord I haven't.
Where is the leak coming from? That is a logical question. That is absolutely the right question. Continuing down that same train of thought, you're thinking to yourself, where is the leak coming from? What is the next question you might ask yourself?
I'd be asking where the phone number for the closest plumber is.
Where the phone number for the next closest plumber. Now, we actually, skip down a couple steps. Who might be able to determine where the leak is coming from? If it's not your skill set, the first thing that you think is, I need to call someone. Well, the same holds true for community organizations. Sometimes what happens is we see an issue. Let's take crime, for instance, we're going to stay on that theme. We see an issue, we say, man, there are a lot of carjackings happening. Why are people jacking cars? Where is it coming from? Now, unlike what Daniel just said, most people might automatically jump to, I should start a nonprofit to help people stop jacking cars. It never dawns on them to think, who is the best person to solve this problem? How do I engage the people who are most experienced with solving issues of crime like this? Daniel, of course, because he automatically thinks in steps, he automatically thinks in community. The first thing he thought was, who is the most experienced person that I could ask, that I can get involved in creating this solution to this problem? Because I don't know anything about fixing roofs. I don't know why. I see it leaking. The most I can do is grab a bucket and catch the water, but it's not going to prevent the water from coming through the roof. I need to find someone who is experienced, who could at the very least tell me why it's leaking. Okay, so we know we've called somebody, we know why we have this person, they've come in, they've diagnosed why it's leaking. What is the next question we think we'd ask ourselves? Ooh, do I have to call on someone? Are y'all gonna make me do that?
Maybe how to fix that leak, or I think I would go to, how much is it going to cost me?
That's exactly right. I'm telling you guys, this is not rocket science. You guys know the answers. I promise you, this is not a gotcha moment. This is not one of those moments where I'm going to be like, aha, you're wrong. The next question you might ask yourself is, how do we fix it and what are the costs involved? This is strategy. That's all we're talking about. We're talking about a coherent set of steps to now figure out how to solve this problem. And involved in that is counting the cost, understanding, do I have the resources available to me to address this issue? So yes, we've involved the community, we involved another person who has more experience, but now we need to figure out, can I even do this? Do I have the resources to do this? Is it something that I can do? Is it something that I have to pay him to do? Does he have the proper equipment to do? Does he need to call another person? Do we need to go down to the plumbing store? These are all logical questions. Now, let's say we have the resources, we deploy the resources, the plumber says, hey, well, this is where you're leaking at. I could stop the leak here. I'm gonna need these tools, so on and so forth. Miranda says the next question we'd ask is, how much does it cost? That's a great question. Let's say it's affordable. We pay him. After we pay him, and he has fixed the roof, he's fixed the leak, it's no longer leaking. What's the next question that we might ask?
Warranty. What kind of warranty or guarantee?
Ernest, man, you're a brilliant man. You're a brilliant man. How long is this fix going to last? Now we're forecasting. Is this a long-term solution? Is this a short-term solution? Did you just fix this roof today, or is it going to leak in another hour or so? Or if we have another hard rain, will the fix that you implemented, will it hold? Right? Did you just do a quick fix, a cheap fix so you can get paid? Or is this a long-term fix? So now we're talking about Band-Aid solutions versus actual root cause fixes, because they can patch the hole, they can tape it up, they can plaster it, they can do a number of things that will prevent the roof from leaking. But would we actually take the time to repair the roof so that leaking is no longer an issue? These are all common sense questions that we ask ourselves every day when we're encountering problems that, for some odd reason, when we're talking about the community, we don't apply the same lens to these community issues. RBA thinking is just a series of questions that allows you to determine if I'm on the right path and if the path that I'm on is the right one for me. Is this the right solution for this problem? Is this the right solution for now? Is it the right solution for later? Is this a long-term fix, short-term fix? That's all RBA thinking does. That's like the most simplest common explanation to get you into that frame of mind of thinking in an RBA way. Ernest, great question. Is there a warranty? The last question, there's only one more question that you would have to ask yourself. This is just one more question. It's actually on the screen. You see it, it's the last one. What is the last question that you would ask yourself after you've gone through all those steps? So you saw that the roof was leaking. You first thought about who could help you fix it. You talked about the resources needed to fix it. Ernest brought up a great point in trying to figure out, is this a short-term fix? Is it a long-term fix? Is there a warranty on the work? How do I know that this is going to not be an issue going forward? What is the last question that we're going to ask ourselves?
Yeah.
How do I know
How do
it's
you know?
fixed?
How do we know it's fixed? How do we know it's fixed? So when we ask ourselves, how do we know that it's fixed? What we're really asking ourselves is, how do I know that the solution that we applied is the actual solution? Well, there are a couple of different ways that you can do that. You can look up there. Is the roof still leaking? If it's not, it might be fixed. You might be able to inspect the roof, get closer. You might touch it, put your hand up there. If it's maybe not a roof situation, let's say if it's a sink, you might pour some water down the sink to see if it still leaks. There are a number of different things that you would do, that you would ask yourself, okay, let me troubleshoot this before I let this person go. Let's test it to make sure that it is indeed actually fixed. Not only that, we will then monitor that situation for a period of time. As a matter of fact, every time it rains, you're going to go to that spot. Let me see. It's not leaking. It must be still fixed. You might, a hard wind might come through. Is the patch still there? Let me check. Now it's a monitoring situation. We do it every day. So RBA thinking is not beyond any of our realms of possibility. We think in RBA, it's common. We just don't call it RBA in our everyday thinking. But all of you guys just demonstrated that you know what RBA is, just through your common sense line of questioning. And all of that is what this means. This very, very complicated looking chart is everything that you guys just did on the previous screen. The first thing, you talked about your experience. How do we know that the roof is leaking? You experienced it. You see the leaky roof. You see the water coming down. You experience the wet floor. Sometimes when you're creating programs or services, all you really need to be a credible messenger and creating a solution to a problem is having experience with the problem. You know, sometimes we get into situations where we're an organization that's not from a community, but we want to bring in resources into that community that we don't have experience with. And now we don't ask ourselves the questions. We don't know how long they have been experienced it. Let me go back to this one. We don't know how, we didn't see the leak. We heard about the leak, but because we have resources, we say, oh, well, let me come down here and fix this leak. Well, it's not your leak to fix. And because you didn't go through the steps, you didn't go through the line of questioning, now what you end up doing is you're risking doing more harm than good because you didn't have the experience. It wasn't your problem to fix. Sometimes you have that. So when you have organizations creating services, in your mind, the first thing you might say is, how do you know? What is your experience with the problem? Daniel, I see a question, see a hand up.
Yeah, Sam, I'm looking at our participants here, and I know myself included, a lot of us are representing statewide nonprofit organizations. And so what you're saying is really resonating with me. What are some effective strategies that you or the foundation have seen for small statewide nonprofit organizations that are trying to deploy effective services, but to a very diverse range of communities across the state? How can we build that trust in those communities, maybe especially where we haven't historically had a presence, or we aren't doing a lot now, but we know we want to do more?
Absolutely, great question. So the first thing I would do is, you know, we have to speak to some of the barriers that you brought up. You say you want to have a presence, but you're not familiar with that particular community, or you're not particularly familiar with those set of problems. The first thing that I would do is establish a baseline, right? We want to talk about going into those communities. We want to meet the people that are of those communities. As a community foundation, what we do is we hold community conversations. We want to know from the people who are affected by the issue, from the people who have the experience with the issue. We want to hear from them what that experience is like, right? So we go into that community. Tell me what the leaky roof is looking like. Tell me what the poverty index is in your area. Tell me what it's like not having affordable housing in this area. What are the passion points? Tell me what it's like to not be able to have adequate vision services in the rural area. Give me the experience. That's what we need, because it's from that baseline of experience that we're then able to measure, okay, these are all of the issues that this community said that they were having. How do we go about finding the right person? Just like the RBA thinking, how do we go about finding the right people to have these conversations with, so that we can formulate a strategy? So the first thing is going to be that open communication, and it's got to be consistent, right? Consistent communication is what builds trust. And as we know from Stephen Covey, everything moves at the speed of trust. If there is no trust, things do not move. People don't answer surveys. People don't respond to questionnaires. People aren't open and honest about their experiences that they're having, because they don't know what you're going to do with that information. And unfortunately, when you're working with people who have experienced trauma, sometimes all it takes is another trauma to shut down all lines of communication. So we have to be sensitive to the community, to the people who have been marginalized, to the people who have been on the receiving end of the of the trauma, we have to be sensitive to that. So we start with communication. We have open lines of communication. We try to make ourselves available, especially as program officers. We try to make sure that our doors are open. More importantly, though, we don't wait for people to come to us. Like, it sounds great to say, oh, we have an open door policy, but that's putting the onus on the people who have the problem to come to us as people, quote unquote, with solutions. Coastal Community Foundation is big on being out in the community. Our program officers, our leaders, they are in the community. They will go to the communities. They will go to the meetings. So we're not asking you, we're not inviting you to a meeting. We're asking to come to yours. We want to know what you guys are doing. We want to know if we can sit on your meetings. We want to know if we can come to your council meetings. We have to put ourselves in the middle of the community so that we can, again, hear those recounts of experience firsthand, so that we're not making any rash decisions. We're not creating any solutions that the community didn't ask for. That is our number one tip on how we build those walls of trust and break down walls of distrust and contempt or anything like that, because we don't want to have a savior complex. And there's a power dynamic. If you are a funder, if you are an organization that has the resources, no matter how well-intentioned you are, there's always going to be that power dynamic of, the Lions Club asked me to do this and they provide funding for us, so now we have to answer it. Well, not necessarily. We want to make sure that it's a collaborative situation, because when one part of the community is suffering, it's not long before the whole community is suffering. So we're all in this together. So those open lines of communication, us going out into the community, I encourage you guys to do that very often. Anybody else have any questions while we're in that mode? Thank you, Daniel. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So we want to get that firsthand experience. Then we need to measure. We need to measure how bad the problem is. Like the leak in the roof, we see it, we experience it. But how bad is it? Is it a situation where I need to call someone today, or can I hold off for another week? How bad is the situation? So you might ask yourself, how much water is leaking? How fast is it leaking? Does it only leak when it rains? If the sun is out, is there a problem? You also want to find out the story behind the baseline, right? Why is it leaking? Miranda asked that question. Why is it leaking? What is there a hole up there? Did a pipe bust? Why is this problem happening? And then speaking to what Daniel said, okay, who can I bring in? This is not my expertise. I see it, I'm experiencing it, but I don't know how to fix it. So now I need to bring in a partner, somebody who has experience to address this issue with me. And last, what works? Ernest said, is this a short-term fix? Is it a long-term fix? How do I know that this actually is fixed? How do I know that it's working? All of that is result-based accountability, particularly when we're talking about population accountability. We're looking at that overall, how do we fix this? How do we turn the curve? If we don't do anything, that's that turn the curve thinking. If we don't do anything, does the leak get worse? Does it get better? I'm not sure. Is that my screen jumping? Is the screen jumping on your end?
Nope, it looks fine on our end.
Okay, so that's just my own screen. It's doing something weird over here.
That's okay.
All right, we'll do that. 7 population accountability questions that you would want to ask yourself. What are the quality of life conditions that we want for our children, adults, family who live in our community? What would these conditions look like if we could see them? How can we measure these conditions? How are we doing on the most important of these measures? Who are the partners that have a role to play in doing better? What works to do better, including no cost and low cost ideas? So when we're talking about creating solutions for really big problems, these are some of the questions that we would ask ourselves. What would these conditions look like if we could see them? Sometimes when we're talking about indicators of poverty, sometimes you can't see it. It's just something that you experience. It's not like you can see a person walking down the street and say, they're in poverty. It's not always like that. So now you have to have communication. You have to have conversation with a particular community to say, what is it like for you? Give me the experience. You know, tell me what the day-to-day is. How was it tough? What is it like not having broadband access in this rural area? What is it like having to drive 10 miles to see an ophthalmologist, or 20 miles to see an ophthalmologist? Like what give me the stories, right? That's how you gather the data. And you want to do that before you try to formulate any type of solution. You gotta have answers to some of these questions. So these 7 well, it's supposed to be 7, there's only 6 up there. These 6 questions, I should have changed that. These 6 questions are questions that you would ask yourself before creating any type of solution when we're talking about coming up with a way to solve a problem for a large swath of individuals. Performance accountability. Again, performance accountability is how well an individual service or organization does in whatever measure that they're trying to fix. And it centers around 3 questions. How much did we do? How well did we do it? And is anyone better off because of it? All right. How much did we do? How well did we do it? Is anyone better off because of it? Performance accountability really talks about effort versus the effect of the effort. Okay. If we were a food bank service, right, and we wanted to measure the effort, the question that we would ask ourselves is, how much food did we give away? That's one measure. That's one level of indicator on the work that we've done. What the 3 questions ask us to do is also measure the quality of the effort. So when we say the quality of the effort, we gave away 3,000 pounds of food. Did we give away fresh fruits and vegetables, or did we give away canned goods, box lunches, dry goods that, when you look at those blessing boxes, God forbid, I don't want to bash the blessing boxes because they're wonderful, right? But sometimes you see things like canned goods in there. We put canned goods in there because we think it's a good thing. Oh, it's non-perishable, so on and so forth. It'll last a long time. But the assumption is that the person who would need it has a can opener. Simple question, we put things like, instant mashed potatoes in there because we're thinking that the people who are receiving this have access to clean water, that they have access to milk and butter and the things that actually make it, decent. We put rice because we're assuming that the people who are taking who are in need of the food, they have pots and pans. They have a kitchen to cook it in. So when we talk about quality of the effort, because we don't really understand who we're actually serving, we blindly put forth solutions that may not actually be a solution at all. They may actually be a barrier. So we're talking about how much did we do? Yes, that's great. We did a lot. We were able to put 3,000 pounds of food out there. But what was the quality of the food? Again, was it fresh fruits and vegetables? Was it chips? Did we fill your backpack with, gummies and just things that you can take really quick? High fruit corn syrup, type snacks and stuff like that. Or was it a balanced meal, right? What was the difference between having a meal at Thanksgiving, because this is something that we do sometimes. We see, we want to give meals at Thanksgiving time. Well, how well the quality of the effort might look like. Did we give a cold meal? Did you give sandwiches, cold meat? Or did you give a hot meal? That's the quality of the effort. The last question is the quantity of the effect. How well are the people doing after we've served them? So if it's an individual that's coming in and we're providing fresh fruits and vegetables, we're providing bags of food for them, how much better are they now that we have provided that bag of food to them? Are they coming back next week? Are they in our line every week? Or did we provide a service to them that prevented them from needing to come back to the line? Right? Those are the questions that we have to ask ourselves. So when we talk about creating solutions, we want to know what kind of solutions we're creating, what is the quality of the solutions that we're creating, and who's better off because of it, right? That's what we mean by how much did we do, how well did we do it, and who's better off because of it. Now, each one of those metrics have merit. Each one of them, it means a lot, but some are better than the others. How much did we do, or what did we do? How much service did we deliver? That's really like the lowest common measure that you could see. It's the easiest to obtain. I gave 10,000 backpacks, during the back to school drive. I made sure 100 kids had, pencils. That's great. What we want to get to, and where we'd like to see organizations stay, is how much better are the individuals that we served because we serve them. So instead of giving a backpack, we might also provide, job training services for the parents. We might want to increase their efficacy. We might want to get to the root cause of the problem that says, okay, I notice every single year your child needs a new backpack. Is it because you can't afford a backpack? Is it because you have a number of kids to supply backpacks to? How can we get to the root cause to where now you no longer need to rely on an outside agency to provide the basic needs and services for your family, right? So you might look at, instead of providing a backpack, you might look at providing training services. This family might need to increase their wages. So that means they might need to increase their skill. That might be a way that you can look at things. So it really just depends on your organization, but you won't know any of that if you're not asking questions, if you're not getting inquisitive about the condition of the people that you're serving. Sometimes what we do as foundations, as organizations, we just say, here's a problem, here's a solution. Sometimes we actually have to take our time and investigate what is going on to be able to apply the most effective solution in that situation. RBA thinking allows us to do that because we're thinking about the end in mind, right? The end in that situation is what services, what resource can I provide this family so that they never need another resource? The idea in general of the nonprofit industry is we should all be working ourselves out of a job, right? That's the goal. The goal is for you to not need a nonprofit to meet your basic needs. As service providers, if the service that we're providing is not leading to that, what we're actually doing is creating dependency, and we're doing more harm than good. We won't think about any of that if we don't go through the steps. And RBA is just a tool that allows us to do that. It allows us to go through the steps. So as you see here, the least important, how much did we do? The most important, who's better off because of it? If you remember nothing else, those three things right there for a service provider: how much did we do? How well did we do it? And who's better off because of it? Those questions will absolutely save your life. Along with these 7, who are our customers? How can we measure if our customers are better off? How can we measure if we're delivering services well? How are we doing on the most important of these measures? The most important of these measures being, how much better are the people that we're serving because our organization exists? We also know that some problems that we're trying to solve, they're too big for one organization. So if we're not automatically asking, who is the best person positioned to help me with this problem? The same way with that leaky roof, you know your limitations as an organization. I am not skilled at fixing leaks. I need to call somebody. I need to bring in other partners. I need to share my space. I need to share my problem. I need to be vulnerable with someone else to say, I have this issue, but I'm not skilled in this area enough to fix it. I need your expertise. As organizations, we don't do that well. because we feel like, oh, well, if I can't do it, I'm not worthy of funding. That's not the case. What we're trying to do is figure out the best solution to serve our customers, to serve our population, to perform, you know, our strategies the best and most efficient way possible, because the reality is a nonprofit organization should not have to exist to meet basic needs of life. So we ask ourselves these questions. What works to do better, including no cost and low cost ideas? And then lastly, what do we propose to do? So after we've gathered all these answers to these questions, what are we going to do? Let's map out a strategy. Let's map out a plan. And these questions, these accountability questions, help us get it in that zone. They help us answer these critical questions so that we know what we're doing, so that we're not prescribing before diagnosing. You know, in the medical field, right? If you prescribe before you diagnose, you actually have malpractice. You don't want that. You definitely want to ask the questions. You want to diagnose. You want to see what's going on. You want to check the chart. You want to do all of these things before you write a prescription. The same holds true for organizations. Before we give money to an organization, we want to know, did you think this through? How do you know? Who did you talk to? Are you involving the people who are closest to the problem? Because the people closest to the problem are also closest to the solution. But we have to have that open dialogue. We have to have that conversation. Lastly, probably most important, different ways that these efforts can be reported. So if we're talking about population indicators, you know, the rate of teen smoking has declined for the first time in 10 years. Big picture, right? If we're talking about a individual organization performance measures, you know, 70% of our trainees have higher wages, higher than average wages if we're a workforce development organization. Lastly, stories. You know, we do that part really well. You know, we opened a new community center. We hired a new staff member. We were able to expand our services in a different county. Those are accomplishments. That speaks to the work that you're doing, but it's not the only measurement that speaks to the work that we're doing. You also have the performance measures. How much better are you because we existed? Well, 70% of our trainings have higher than average wages than individuals who didn't go through our services. We've been working on an issue for so long that the baseline, if we hadn't existed, the baseline was going to continue increasing. But because we've sustained our efforts over a long period of time, we've seen a decline for the first time in 10 years. That's what Mothers Against Drunk Driving did. They stayed the course. And over time, they saw drunk driving deaths go down. They can count that as a win. Those are different ways, different measures that organizations can report on their efforts to show that, hey, we are effective. This is a solution that's working. You can feel comfortable in funding us because we have this accomplishment, because we have this measurement, because we can prove that we've been effective over a long period of time. And those are all things that you would look for when partnering with the organization, when deciding to fund the organization, or when bringing in an organization to help you solve a problem. And that's it. That's all I have. Do we have any questions? None?
Sam, could you talk a little bit about, you mentioned community engagement and ways that the foundation is seeking to receive on the ground relevant feedback from the communities in which you fund and operate. I'll tee this up for you a little bit. If somebody is listening to this and wants to get more involved in the foundation's work, what are some volunteer opportunities that exist at the foundation?
Absolutely. I'm glad you asked that question. Currently, we're actually recruiting volunteers to be committee members. We have a wide variety of committees that the foundation has for different funding opportunities that we offer. We're actually recruiting and interviewing committee members right now. So if you have a desire to be a committee member, if you have a desire to be excuse me, if you have a desire to see what this process looks like firsthand on the back end, I welcome you to email me directly, and I'll be more than happy to set up a an interview with you just to talk about the different funding opportunities that we have and the different programs that require committee members. We'll give you an overview of what community service looks like, what that entails, the length of time. I can be reached at samuel@coastalcommunityfoundation.org. Pretty simple there. But I welcome you to just email us, because we are recruiting for committee members right now. And we're always looking for experienced community members to share their community wisdom with us and be a part of it. Because the Community Foundation in and of itself, we don't know everything. And we don't pretend to know everything. And we really try to lean on the expertise of those who are closest to the problem, which is all of you that live in the different communities that are working in different areas. And we really just want to match your skill set and your expertise with the different funds that we offer, because they all require something different of their committee member. So it's a great opportunity to understand how, in layman's terms, how money moves in the philanthropy world.
Wonderful. Those committees are great opportunities. I've served on a couple of them, and it's been really rewarding. So that's good stuff.
Absolutely.
I know we're right at 10 o'clock. Are there any other last minute questions or things that you want to email Sam or let him know that you'll be following up with him on before we let him go? All right. Well, Sam, thank you so much again for being with us this morning. We really appreciate your time and your expertise and your work at the foundation to just help us create better, healthier, more equitable communities across the coast. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And I will make sure that I email this presentation to you, Daniel, and my contact information. Feel free to share that out. If you guys have any questions at all, don't hesitate to reach out. I will be more than happy to provide resources and information and anything I can do to help you guys do your work better.
Fantastic. Will do, Sam. Thank you so much.
You guys have a good one.
You too. All right, I want to jump right into, we've got kind of a smaller group than I was expecting we would have this morning. So I want to be respectful of your time and involvement and just share a couple of key updates with you. Catherine, I apologize, you and I have already talked about this next one a little bit. So this will be somewhat duplicative, but Courtney Plotner was not able to be here this morning, but she has helped connect Palmetto Vision Alliance with a really exciting opportunity for a new data project in South Carolina. This was detailed in our May monthly newsletter for the Palmetto Vision Alliance and will be included in our June newsletter that will go out probably next week. So if you haven't already seen it or heard about it, you'll be able to get more details on it. But the Vision Serve Alliance, which is kind of like a national version of what we're doing with the Palmetto Vision Alliance, has created a data research project with the Ohio State University College of Optometry to create current, relevant, county-level population demographic data for blind and visually impaired communities in every state. Really, the only limitation that we have is we have to raise the funds in each state to create these reports, these data sets for us. They had an initial cohort that was part of a pilot phase through Vision Serve Alliance's aging and vision loss group. And that initial cohort included 9 reports that analyzed standardized statewide data and national reports of people who are blind or have low vision and were 65 years of age or older. So it cost roughly $10,000 per phase per state for these reports to be generated. The first phase of reports is for that 65 and over demographic. The second phase will be for ages 18 to 64, and then the third phase will be for those under 18 years of age. We haven't finalized the total costs for each report. The largest population is going to be in that 65 and over category, so it's possible that phases 2 or 3 might not be as expensive as phase 1, but we don't have a final price tag yet. It'll be about $10,000 per phase per state. And thanks to Courtney's help, and we were able to jump on at Lions Vision Services. We have secured funding for South Carolina's first phase of this project. We're very grateful. Rhonda had to jump off, but actually the South Carolina Commission for the Blind made the leadership gift to secure funding for the first phase of our South Carolina report, which will be available, we expect, by the end of the summer. And that means that for that first phase, it's the Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired South Carolina, Lions Vision Services, South Carolina Commission for the Blind, and the Vision Institute are all sponsors of that work. Again, most of that coming from the South Carolina Commission for the Blind, which we're very grateful for. So if you have not heard about this project at more detail, it probably means that I was supposed to give you a call a couple of weeks ago, and just have not gotten around to my list yet. Courtney's done a much better job on her list than I have on mine. So if you haven't heard more from either Courtney or myself about this, you will in the next couple of weeks. The invitation is out for all organizations, especially all members of the Palmetto Vision Alliance, to be a sponsor for phase 2 or 3. These projects are going to take some time. The current timeline is that the Vision Serve Alliance hopes to have them done by the end of the 2024 calendar year. They're trying to do all 3 phases for all 50 states. So that's a lot of work. It's a lot of data to process, but there's such a need for this. There really is no current up-to-date relevant demographic data, especially at the county level, for the blind and visually impaired community. So if you want to know what these reports look like and what South Carolina's will entail, there's a link to the first 9 reports that Vision Serve Alliance completed in that initial cohort. Again, South Carolina is being conducted as we speak. So we invite everyone to contribute to this, to get your organization's name on these reports. Doesn't matter the amount. It can be $50, it can be $5,000. Again, the cost for the first phase was $10,000. We expect that to be pretty comparable to what phases 2 and 3 will cost. So any gift of any amount will help us with that. And you can contact either me or Courtney to secure your sponsorship spot on that. And you will get early access to those reports. We're going to be working to get those reports published to the community, but the sponsors of those reports will not only have recognition, but will get early access to that data. We expect this to be very helpful for grant writing and for just making more community engagement opportunities with more relevant community data. Any questions about that big data project? All right. Well, we again, we'll have another update on that in our June newsletter, so stay on the lookout for that. Our next meeting is going to be on Tuesday, August 23rd, and we will be talking about more specifically securing funding. We got to hear a little bit about Coastal Community Foundation's grant making initiatives today from Sam, but I'm working, I've got a meeting next week to get the Sisters of Charity Foundation involved as our primary panel discussion for that August 23rd event. And you might recall from our first meeting of the year that Dr. Mary Sedgwick was going to talk about being differently abled and perfectly capable. She had a health situation come up that prevented her from being at our first meeting. We'll be able to plug her in at our last meeting of the year on Wednesday, October 19th. So go ahead and save those dates on your calendar, and we look forward to seeing you at those events. We have received a couple of bids for developing our Palmetto Vision Alliance website, and this is with funding from the Blue Cross Blue Shield of South Carolina Foundation. Very excited to have their support. Part of what we want to do is include a visual representation of each Palmetto Vision Alliance member. So if you'd like your logo included on that website, since you are a member of Palmetto Vision Alliance, please send me that logo by email in your preferred format. If you could make sure that there is either a PNG or JPEG version included amongst what you send, that would be helpful to us from a design standpoint. But If you'll get me those by the end of the month, that will help us as we move forward with our website development. And of course, you can always check out our Palmetto Vision Alliance OneDrive. That will be linked in the follow-up email from today that will have today's recording, as well as Sam's presentation and just a host of other supplemental information. If you want current contact roster for all Palmetto Vision Alliance members, that's included on there. And if there are other resources that you would like to see included, please let me know. We can always track down additional services or resources to include in there. So I'd like to open it up to our normal round of questions at the end of the meeting, just to hear from you all. Y'all took the time to be with us today. How are things at your organization? Do you have any announcements that you would like to share with us, or do you need help or connections with any projects or client needs that you might have right now? I'll just open it up for a general time of sharing for everybody.
Good morning, everyone. This is Ernie. I just wanted to say, I think that this group that we have is really good, Daniel. I think it's a great resource for us to be able to reach out to each other and also get certain things knocked out that might be pending for some long periods of time, and being able to just talk to people to be able to cross brainstorm on things. So I appreciate it, and because I speak a lot to Courtney and Brooks, and with different things that we have, and of course I reach out to you about different things that come. So I just want to say it's not in vain. You're doing a great job.
Thank you, Ernie. I appreciate that.
All right.
All right, well, not hearing anything else, I will give you all back 18 minutes of your day. Thank you so much. Miranda, it's great to meet you for the first time over Zoom. I appreciate you joining us today. And Catherine, it's great to see you again as well. And Ernie, it's always a pleasure to catch up with you. So thank you all for your time. Please keep in touch and stay tuned for more info coming from us soon. Thanks, everyone.
You all take care.
Bye-bye.